My name is Chris Hauck. I am a chiropractor. My office is Chiropractic Solutions here in Framingham. We're the winner of the Reader's Choice Award and the Best of Metro West. Before, as a chiropractor, I was an exercise physiologist. I spent some time conducting research for the U.S. Army, spent some time personal training, and in addition to being a chiropractor, I have some additional training in perinatal and pediatric care. Our oldest patient is 102. Our youngest is just a few months old. I am also a dad, and a husband, and also somebody that is fairly concerned with the health of our community. So here we go. Oh, pardon me, back to the Zoom. So, yeah. Hashtag WTF, right? So first off, I want to let you know, it's not what you think, okay? When in my office, when we see hashtag WTF, it stands for where is the focus, right? All of us have the same 4 limiting resources: time, energy, and money, and focus, right? And in life, we tend to get what we focus on. Am I right? So I want to ask you all, where has your focus been over this past year? Has it been on becoming healthier and more resilient, or has it been just not getting sick, right? Because folks, being healthy and just not sick, they're different, in the same way that being beautiful is a lot different than just not being ugly, right? I mean, I'll choose beautiful over not ugly any given day, and I'll choose healthy over not sick any day as well. So I want to introduce you to the 3 levels or 3 tiers of healthcare. And I want you to know that all 3 tiers of healthcare are important. However, only one of these tiers will actually help you thrive in this new normal. So when we talk about treatment by definition is when you're already sick, right? If you're already sick, ventilators, prescriptions, and surgeries, those are great things. The job of treatment is to keep you alive. But does it make you healthier, or does it just not make you dead? What about prevention? Prevention is important too, right? Prevention, by definition, is just avoiding treatment, right? Examples of prevention are things like masks, hand washing, don't touch your face. Prevention helps keep you safe. But again, I'm going to ask you, does prevention make you healthier or just not sick? So are we masking the real problem? And before I get into this, I just want to let you know, this is not an anti-mask statement. I grew up playing hockey. Masks are good for this guy. From the eyes down, it's all bad news. I got the crooked nose. I got the chipped teeth. Masks are good, right? But can we agree that treatment and prevention, they're important, but ultimately treatment and prevention are not going to make you or your loved ones healthier, right? Folks, I think there's silver linings in everything. And I think we can all agree that this COVID thing has really stressed our system, right? And when you stress a system, it exposes the cracks and you can see where we're weak, right? So one of the things that I would argue is that I think a significant part of why we have not been able to successfully beat this thing as a society is the reality is we weren't healthy before any of this started. Here are the facts. We spend more money on prescription drugs and surgeries. We spend more money on healthcare than any other nation on the planet. But the World Health Organization, they ranks us 38 out of 40 nations as far as how healthy we are. Life expectancy has actually been on the decline since 2017 here in the US. Despite that, life expectancy has continued to increase in other parts of the world. So, the fact is we are only as strong as your weakest link. And I would say that, here in the good old United States of America, probably the best place on the planet to be sick. We do treatment well. Prevention, guys, prevention is not a new concept. We know what causes heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, but yet it goes up every single year. Well, what about promotion? How are we at promotion, right? I mean, let's get behind promotion. Promotion. I get excited every time I read this definition, right? Promotion. Promotion is activity that supports or provides active encouragement for the furtherance of a cause, venture, or aim. Disease prevention and health promotion, those are two different things, right? Guys, it is promotion that's going to make you healthier. It's promotion that's going to make you stronger. It's promotion that's going to make you more resilient. So my argument is that we need to shift some or all of our focus away from this strong virus and put that focus and put that energy into becoming a strong, more resilient, more resistant host. I'm going to give you over a dozen strategies today to promote your health so that you can thrive in this new normal. But first, I just got to give you an idea of how your body works. We got to understand how we went from caveman to COVID man. And the reality is, guys, we are 0.02% genetically different from cavemen. And for some of us, that's not hard to imagine. But the reality is, as a caveman and as a human, you are equipped with this thing called a stress response or a flight or flight response, okay? Now you have this thing called the brain, right? And what your brain's job is to, when it encounters a stress, right, encounters a threat to its survival, the brain's gonna send a message to your adrenal glands, and it's gonna release this thing called cortisol. And the job of cortisol, very important, pay attention here, is to turn off and what turn on body functions that are needed for immediate survival. Now, here's the thing about this that's so important. This stress response is designed for short term, not long term. So this is how it works. You're a caveman. You're walking down the caveman street and a tiger jumps out of the bush and it wants to make you its lunch. Your brain encounters, says, oh, that's not good. It sends a message to the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands release cortisol. And cortisol in that moment is going to increase your heart rate, increase your blood pressure, increase your muscle tone. Now, if I'm running for my life, that's really, really important because I got to run away from this tiger, fight away this tiger. I'm going to increase my blood sugars. I'm going to increase my blood cholesterol. And that's a really smart thing to do in the short term as well, because I'm going to need energy to run away from this tiger or to fight this tiger. When your body's under stress, your digestive functions are decreased. Your body's worried about not becoming a sandwich, not digesting a sandwich. Your immune system, very important here. When you're under stress, your immune system is downregulated, right? Your body's concerned about the tiger that's going to get you in the next few moments, not the bacteria or the virus that's going to get you tomorrow. And of course, decreased sex hormones. When you're running for your life, well, most of us, but probably not all of us, are not thinking about, getting jiggy with it, so to speak, right? So if you want to understand every single chronic disease known to man explained in 30 seconds or less, pay attention, because here it is, right? Guys, this stress response is designed for short term, right? And we've gone from flatten the curve to find a cure, and what was supposed to be a short-term thing has now become a long-term thing, and it's now what we call life or the new normal. The reality of it is many of you have been in a chronic stress response or flight or flight response for about a year, right? So when your cortisol is chronically high and you're having increased heart rate, blood pressure, muscle tone, we call that heart disease. When you have increased blood sugar, we call that diabetes. When you have increased blood cholesterol, that's what creates stroke. IBS, Crohn's disease, all those are different names that mean decreased digestive function, right? Again, decreased immune system, we call that cancer. Decreased sex hormones, we call that marriage, right? So here it is. I get asked almost on a daily basis, how is it, doc, that we're still getting colds and we're still getting flus? I got the mask, I got the Lysol. I mean, I literally have seen people like take the Lysol, spray the Lysol and then like walk through the mist of Lysol, right? Like we've never, ever, ever been so focused on, prevention. But guys, we're still catching colds is because when you're in a chronic stressed environment and your cortisol's through the roof, the immune system is downregulated, right? So you don't necessarily get sick. Sometimes you do sick. If you do the things that lower your body's immune system, you're gonna open the door to disease and sickness. So this is a younger version of me, and that's my lovely wife, and she still looks the same, and of course I don't, right? So in 2007, my wife and I, we started our practice, Chiropractic Solutions. We got married in 2006, and in most cases, couples take their nest egg and they buy a house, or they start a life, right? So for my wife and I, we started a business. And about 10 years into that business that was our baby that we created, I got a phone call about 2:34 in the morning, and one of my patients told me that, "Hey doc, I hate to be telling you this, but your entire office plaza is burned to the ground." Right. So most of you will recognize this as the old Path Village. It's recently renovated, right? It's where J&M Diner used to be, if you still have questions, right? And in that moment, we lost everything. So the reason I tell this story is because I know it hasn't been an easy year, and it's been a harder year for some of us than it's been for others. But I want you to know, I know what it's like to be completely burned out. I know what it's like. At the time of the fire, my second child was 6 weeks old at the time, and I know what it's like to just, as a parent, to just want nothing more to play with your kids, but being so burned out that you can't. You have nothing left to give. So I know I've been there, and if you listen to even half of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today, and if you do only half of the things that I'm going to tell you to do today, I know that we can help you thrive in the new normal. Are you guys ready? Right? Those of you with your cameras on, give me some thumbs up, give me a smile, give me some chats, some hearts, some loves. There we go. Yeah, there we go, Mike. Playing along. Thank you for playing along. So I hear this again and again and again. Does anyone else feel like they're in the movie Groundhog Day? Right? Every day is the same day, right? A good analogy is, remember the old Oregon Trail where you had the wagons going down the same path, right? And over time, you would develop ruts in that path, right? And one of those wagons would get stuck in the rut, right? And guess what? It takes energy to get out of that rut, and it takes as much energy to stay out of that rut. And that sounds like the past year for a lot of us, right? So a lot of us are working from home. So I want to give solutions for both adult ergonomics, and I want to give solutions for kid ergonomics, right? So raise your hand if you're a grandparent, right? And raise your hand if you're like my parents, and they're helping us out taking care of our children, right? First off, my father's home with my two kids right now. Thank you, Dad. Right, my in-laws, they've really stepped up, right, and helping us, right? So I just want to thank your whole generation for helping us parent our children through this crisis, right? So I'm going to give you solutions for both you as an adult and your kids and your grandkids, right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is moving into the GVector. Guys, so sitting to the spine is like sugar to the teeth, okay? Research clearly states now that if you sit 6 or more hours a day, your incidence of heart disease, cancer, diabetes all goes up. And those risk factors are not negated by exercising. A lot of the studies have looked at, hey, I sit 6 hours a day, but I work out 3 times a week. Doesn't matter, unfortunately, right? In the same way that if you worked out 3 times a week but smoked cigarettes, it wouldn't matter, right? So sitting is now recognized as an independent risk factor for disease, right? So NASA has done the best studies that I've ever seen on this, right? As many of you know, when an astronaut goes into space, the body is designed to live in a gravity-rich environment so that when they return to Earth, many of their health parameters are in the toilet. So NASA looked at this very, very extensively. Their research and their research methods were fantastic. And what they found, folks, is that you need to be moving in what's called the GVector, which is basically a very NASA way of saying you need to change your position, and the number that they found was 15 minutes, right? We work a lot with people that are in the corporate world, and they'll say, oh, I get up once an hour to get a cooler, or get water at the cooler, or I got to go pee, right? So, but the reality of it is you need to change your posture from sitting to standing or from standing to sitting every 15 minutes or so. Okay. A really good strategy to use is to have like a sit to stand desk. Okay. If you were to look at my office right now, I'm using one right now, of course, in stand mode. But if I wanted to sit down, I'd hit these levers on the side and then I would be able to sit. Standing all day is not necessarily a great solution either. Better solution than sitting all day. But you really want to be altering your position or your posture every 15 minutes or so. A great solution to have is to actually have a desktop timer. Okay. So actually right on time. We've been sitting for about 15 minutes, but good time for you guys to reset your posture. Why don't you everyone stand up, just bring those shoulders back, reset that posture. Really easy to do. I won't make you stand for 15 minutes because it's your first day on the job here. But remember, and then some of us are committed to sitting. I see you over there. So guys, remember to change your position as much as you can every 15 minutes. All right, life extension exercises, right? So the reality of it is many of us spend our time sitting in front of computers, right? And the thing I want you to understand is if I put your arm in a cast and immobilized that, say, bicep muscle for a period of time, what would happen to that bicep muscle? It would be deconditioned, right? It would shrink, it would atrophy, right? Would that muscle be as strong as it should be? No, because it hasn't been moving, right? So the thing about this, folks, is when you're sitting in that desk, kind of in that forward flexion posture all day long, you're not engaging the muscles that support and protect the spine, right? You've got this beautiful pulley system called the erector spinae group, right? And they're highly specialized muscles, and they also have really good influence on the brain's posture center, right? And when you're sitting all day slumped over in your chair, one, you're not engaging those muscles. You're weakening the muscles that support and protect the spine, right? Your spine and your pelvis is the center of all of your mobility. So if your spine is weak, it's just a matter of time before you injure yourself putting on your socks. I don't know why putting on your socks is such a dangerous thing for the lower back. I'll figure this out before I die, right? But the key here is doing core exercises, things like yoga, right? Real simple. Going to YouTube, you enter extension exercises or core exercises. You'll have more exercises than you'll ever know what to do with, right? I know the gyms are closed, but at the same time, I think trainers as a whole have really stepped up as a profession. And guys, you can work out at home through these things called Zoom, right? So if you need any help finding a good trainer, I'm a big fan of Impact Metro West. It's in the Saxonville Mills. My personal trainer, Peter McMahon, best trainer I've ever worked with. And this is coming from an exercise physiologist. So make sure if you need help finding a good trainer, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Or if you need finding actual exercises, you can hop on my website, which links you to my YouTube page. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about when it comes from working from home is drawing the line. Guys, the reality of it is the lines between work and home have been blurred, and basically you're working yourselves to death, right? So when it comes to drawing a line, it's going to be a lot easier. If you don't draw the line, no one else will, right? And what I mean by drawing the line is maybe I'm not going to answer that email after 8 o'clock. Maybe I'm not going to walk around with 2 different phones, right? A lot of people are very, very hesitant to draw the line because the human brain is more motivated by loss, right? So if you're being worked to death, it's because you're afraid that if you don't work yourself to death, that something's bad's going to happen, right? I say never make a decision from fear, right? A lot of as someone that employs people, I can't fire somebody because they don't work themselves to death, right? So draw the line. If you don't, no one else will. The last thing or second thing we'll talk about is time blocking. Time blocking is scheduling certain things at certain times of the day, right? So if you were to look at my schedule, there's times in the day where I'm only doing, say, reports, where I'm educating on people's x-rays, I'm consulting them on what they should do next with their health. And then there's times where I'm adjusting, right? Because adjusting a spine and explaining to a human what their spine looks like and how it needs to be helped are two different parts of the brain. In my schedule, if it's not on the schedule, it's 100% likely that it's not going to happen, right? So time blocking is a great thing, right? And moms, I'm talking specifically to you, Sarah Bauer. I want you to block out time for yourselves, right? Moms especially, give, love, serve all the time. You forget to give time to yourself. So block that time out to be a human. The last thing we'll talk about with drawing the line is your value brackets, right? So raise your hand if you're familiar with March Madness, right? The concept of a bracket, right? So let me get back to my Zoom. So, pardon me, pardon me, missing a slide here. We're gonna be okay. All right, so this is what we call a value bracket, right? So guys, values help you dictate your choices, and your choices dictate or determine your outcomes. So if you want better outcomes, of course you can look to the behaviors or choices, but upstream from those behaviors or choices are your values. So it's not a waste of time for you to identify and prioritize your values. Like, for example, you might value your health, but you also might value your wealth, right? But trading in your wealth at the expense of your health is like trading your car in for some gas money. It just doesn't make sense, right? So for me, health is a greater value than wealth. So it helps dictate my decisions, right? Because sometimes decisions are tough, but when decisions are tough, you go right back to the values. So as far as your adult ergonomics, moving within the GVector, constantly changing your position every 15 minutes, making sure you're using your life extension exercises, engaging the muscles of the spine, and of course, drawing the line. If you don't, they won't. Now, when it comes to our kids, the number one thing is they got to move. Kids need to move because the nervous system, especially the developing nervous system, requires movement for proper development. So here's a good example. Kids need to crawl, right? When kids crawl, it helps develop a part of the brain called the corpus callosum, right? And that part of the brain allows the right side and the left side to talk to one another. So it's well known and researched that kids that don't crawl have a higher incidence of, say, dyslexia and learning disabilities, right? So things that you want to engage. If you were to look at my 9-year-old room, it kind of looks like a little bit like a gym. He's sitting on these unstable surfaces we call dynadiscs, or a physio ball, or a stool, right? Stools are great for kids, right? I mean, I'm talking like a cheap stool, right? I'm talking like a nice stool that has some padding on it, because the reality of it is when your child is on a stool, they have to engage those muscles in order to stay on the stool, right? Versus if you're on a chair, you can sit back in that chair and let the chair do the work of the muscles. Does that make sense? So get these kids moving. Tummy time, right? Guys, I get it. I'm a parent, right? We don't have a big screen issue in my house, but I understand as a parent that sometimes you just got to put a screen in front of a kid so that you can get your work done. I get it, right? But here's the thing about this. Your spine as an adult is developed. Your child's spine is going to develop up until like early 20s, right? So your child's spine or your grandchild's spine is moldable like clay. So for my kids, if they're going to use their tablets, they're going to do it on their tummies, right? Because if they're on their tummies, it enforces them to use those extensors of the neck, and they're now engaging the muscles in the neck because that cervical curve is developing, and that's a critical part of a healthy spine throughout a lifetime, right? So that works for adults too. Get on the belly and tummy time, engage the neck. The 2-minute rule. So one of the things I learned almost 4 years ago during our office fire was the 2-minute rule. Now, I got to preference this. My oldest child is 9 years old. So anything after 9 years old, I don't really, I don't consider myself an expert in that, right? So if your grandchildren or your children are over 9 years old, you're on your own. All right. So I guess this only works from 9 and below. But one thing that I can tell you is that when my kids are acting up, it's because I'm not present, right? Kids don't want your time, they want your presence, right? So the 2-minute rule is, you know what? You can't be present 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't be perfect all the time, but you can be perfect the first minute of the day and the last minute of the day, right? And I tell you, if you be with that child on those 2 minutes, the rest of the minutes of the day are a whole lot easier. I can promise you that. Stop eating crap. We're all adults here, right? Stop eating stuff that just makes you feel good, right? I get it, guys. We are in a pandemic. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just want to feel good, right? So for me, I'll go first. It's the Oreo cookie, right? I'm going to eat an Oreo cookie. Oreo cookie is going to stimulate this thing in my brain called dopamine, right? And dopamine is going to make me feel good, right? Same thing happens when I eat a steak and cheese. Steak and cheese is delicious. What happens? My dopamine goes up and then I feel good. But the reality is that we need to eat according to what the food does to our insulin levels, not our dopamine levels, right? So the reality is willpower is a fairy tale and it doesn't work, right? So for me, if I think I'm going to go out and buy some Oreo cookies, or now it's the Girl Scout cookies because it's that season, right? So you think I'm going to bring Girl Scout cookies into my house and I'm not going to eat them and then willpower is going to save me, I'm lying to myself, all right? Willpower doesn't exist. You don't need more willpower. You need more strategies, right? So the best strategy I can tell you is that the battle is won and lost at the checkout counter, right? So don't bring those things into the house, right? For me, the lifespan for an Oreo cookie in my house is minutes, right? I've never thrown an Oreo cookie away because it's gone bad, right? The same is true for foods that live in boxes, packages, and wrappers. Guys, I get it, right? We're in a pandemic here. Going to the grocery store is not a fun thing, right? When we go to the grocery store, we shop, well, in a way that we, man, if I could never go to the grocery store again, that'd be great, right? So we get a lot of frozen processed foods that live in boxes, packages, and wrappers. But what you need to understand is those foods that live in boxes, packages, and wrappers, they're dead, right? It's dead food. And if you want to create life from the foods that you eat, you need to eat more live foods, things that belong in your refrigerator, not your freezer, right? And eating more live foods will surely affect your insulin levels way better than anything that lives in a box, wrapper, or package. We're going to talk about water, right? Some of us spend more time in masks than others, okay? And what I can tell you is it's hard to stay properly hydrated when you're wearing a mask all day. Good timing for that, right? So the thing that I need you to understand is your body needs water. It needs water to exist. And your body is an economist, right? So if you're one of those people that oh my God, I haven't had anything to drink all day and then I'm going to slug this whole thing in one shot, right? Your body is smart. It's not stupid. It says, hey, hotshot, I need about 4 ounces of water an hour, but you gave me none. So unless you want this thing called metabolic acidosis, I got to take all the water you just gave me and I gotta get rid of this waste. I gotta pee it out, right? So if you're one of those that hydrates like in leaps and bounds, right? It's, especially men of a certain age, I don't drink water after a certain age because then I gotta pee all night, right? Then that's a thing. So what you want to do is you want to be drinking about 4 ounces every hour. If you're drinking water consistently throughout the day, then the body says, oh, thank you. Now I can take this water molecule and put it in a disc cell, or I can put it in a muscle cell, or I can use it to actually be healthier. So make sure you're drinking water consistently throughout the day. Let's talk about diets. All right. So first off, the first 3 letters of diet are DIE, right? So I want you to think of a diet as a lever that you can pull, right? And you got basically 3 levers or 3 diets that are popular. right? You can restrict your calories. Okay, restricting your calories is not a bad idea. But what happens when people restrict their calories is at some point they go, I'm sick of starving myself. And man, I want more calories. And then they go from losing weight, right, to gaining the weight that they lost and maybe even a little bit more, right? Another lever that you can pull is you can restrict nutrients, right? So, hey, I'm on the all protein diet. I'm on a no carb diet. In other words, you're avoiding a certain subset of nutrients, right? So that's okay too. That would work too. But at some point you might say, man, I really miss cheese. You know what? Or I'm an athlete and I exercise intensely and I need complex carbohydrates. So that too is only sustainable for so long. And then there's the most recent diet, which is, intermittent fasting, where you're restricting your time and you're only eating within certain hours of the day. Well, that might work. That will definitely work. You'll definitely lose some weight. But there might come a time where you go, I like breakfast, right? So all three of those levers are not necessarily sustainable. So when I talk about diet, you want to do only the things that you can sustain throughout a lifetime. Which I can tell you, the first personal training client I ever worked with, I was 18 years old. I'm 42 years old now. All right. We have a very, very, very busy practice. We work with a lot of people on a weekly basis. The thing that has worked through that in my entire career is this beautiful thing called moderation. And you can use a little bit of each one of those levers. You can restrict some of your calories. You can restrict some of your nutrients like dairy and grains. And of course, you can also restrict time to some degree with moderation. Right? So again, never commit to a lifestyle change that you can't sustain over a period of time. So for me, I favor moderation over diets or levers. Oh, pardon me. Pardon me, missing a slide. There it is. It's time to go to bed. Guys, go to bed. Just go to bed, right? I can tell you, nothing good happens on Facebook after 8 o'clock. It just doesn't happen, right? Watching the evening news before you go to bed is not going to help you sleep. It's just, there's not a lot of good news out there, right? So here's some strategies that you can do. Raise your hand if you have an iPhone, right? So on iPhones, there's this app called Screen Time, right? So Screen Time will keep track of how much time you're on your screen or on your phone, right? And at the end of the week, it'll send you a report of how much time you've spent on the phone, right? And then you'll get that report, and then you'll second guess all of your life decisions over that past week. And then you'll realize, hey, wait, if I could only have 3 hours more a day, well, I'll spend 4 hours on the phone. Oops, right? And, numbers don't lie, right? So I say, hey, we don't have emotions. I got numbers, right? So the Screen Time app is a great thing to use. The last thing I'll tell you is e-fasting, right? So there is a very, very primal relationship between light, time of the day, and hormone production. Remember that hormone called cortisol, right? Cortisol doesn't do just bad things. Cortisol is good when cortisol should be high and it is high, that's good. When cortisol is low, it should be low, that's good too, right? On this slide, you can see there's two lines. One of them is cortisol. The other one is melatonin. I want you to think of these two hormones existing on a seesaw, right? Remember the seesaws, right? I know you guys know seesaws. I know seesaws. Kids these days may not know seesaws, right? But seesaws, you go down, the other side goes up, right? And so on and so forth. So here's what you got to understand. Your cortisol's got to go down in order for your melatonin to go up. Your melatonin needs to go up in order for you to go down to sleep. Say that again. Cortisol's got to go down. Melatonin's going to go up. You will not fall asleep and stay asleep if that does not happen. So things that keep your cortisol level high, we talked about all the things that are stressful, of course, the news, things of that nature. But beyond that, guys, your phone, the light that it comes from the phone, your brain thinks that's the sun, right? So there's a really important thing called e-fasting, which means you should really keep your eyeballs away from screens for at least half hour, if not an hour, before you try to go to bed, right? If you're on your iPhone until the second that you go to bed, what you've done is you've kept your cortisol high and you've suppressed your melatonin, and onset of sleep and depth of sleep just will not be as good. So, second thing, I want you to start thinking of your bedtime as the first event of the day, right? So when you guys wake up, do you take a hot shower or a cold shower? Raise your hand if you take a hot shower, or give me a thumbs up. Raise your hand if you take a cold shower. Right? Okay, not too many people taking cold showers, right? So raise your hand if the first thing you do when you wake up in the day is you take something heavy and you slam it down on your foot. All right, no one said yes on that one, right? So are we in agreement that it's highly unlikely that you will intentionally sabotage the first thing that you do in that day, right? It's just how it is. It's like, hey, if something bad happens to you first thing when you roll out of bed, it's just the whole day is ruined, right? So here's the thing. If you make a mental switch saying that, hey, my bedtime tonight is actually the first thing that I'm going to do today, well, you're going to make the right choice. In the same way that you wouldn't choose to smash something heavy on your foot first thing in the morning, you'll choose to go to bed at an appropriate time. I guarantee you. The last thing I'm going to tell you is stop sleeping on your face. Okay? So here's the deal. You can sleep on your side. You can sleep on your back. You just can't sleep on your stomach. Why? Why, you may ask, right? So very, very basically, if you lay on your back, you're going to spread your body weight over a larger cross section, and the amount of stress on your spine and the discs that in your spine is going to be significantly reduced. You can sleep on your side, however, it's not as good as sleeping on your back. And the reason why is when you sleep on your side, you're now stacking your body weight over a much smaller cross section, right? Right? What hurts more, when I slap you like this or when I karate chop you? Ha, ha, right? It's the karate chop, right? So here's the thing. You show me someone that sleeps on their right shoulder, I'll show you a person with a right shoulder or a right hip issue. You show me that someone that sleeps on the left, I'll show you a person that has a left shoulder and a left hip issue, right? So sleeping on your back is the best. Sleeping on your side is secondary. Sleeping on your stomach is a no-no. And here's the reason why. So you have a picture of this on your slide, but I'm going to get a little bit closer. And when you look at your cervical spine, so this is a spine. I'm a chiropractor. I go everywhere with a spine. And if you look at the size of these joints, there's these extra little lips here, right? They're called the joints of Luschka, the uncovertebral joints, and they only exist in the neck. They don't exist anywhere any other parts of the spine. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you turn your head to the side, you're going to compress and inflame and irritate those joints because you still got to do that whole breathing thing, right? So when you compress, inflame, and irritate those joints over a lifetime, you're going to create osteoarthritis or significantly more arthritis in the neck. So my stomach sleepers, I'm going to use the word always. My stomach sleepers always have more arthritis in the neck, right? The nerves that come out of the neck also exit into the shoulder and down into the hands, right? So I'm going to use the word always. My stomach sleepers always have more tingling in their hands or shoulder issues, right? There's this little red thing that goes up the top. That's called your vertebral artery, okay? That goes to your brain, right? So I'm going to use the word always. My stomach sleepers always have more headaches, right? So you can sleep on your back, you can sleep on your side, but don't sleep on your stomach, right? It's also very common that my stomach sleepers also report disrupted sleep quality. They can't stay asleep because the body wasn't designed to sleep on the stomach, and your body's smart and it says, hey, wake up, stop sleeping on your stomach. That's how that works. So the other thing I will say is you need 8 hours, all right? Schedule your sleep, time block your sleep, right? There are people that say, I don't need 8 hours of sleep, but you know what? Your body disagrees with you. Your hormonal system disagrees with you. You need 8 hours of sleep. So, in closing, one of the things that I would say is I think every single one of us over the past year have either read something or looked at something one of our friends have said or posted and have been like, oh my God, I can't believe they feel that way or they say that way. Am I alone here? I mean, have most of us been shocked by people that we thought we knew very, very well, right? So one of the things I can tell you is we need to steward who we're spending our time with. There are people that build you up in life, and there are people that break you down. And it's okay to love the people from afar that have a negative impact on your life. So that's a picture of me much, much younger version of me. And this guy with the big lips here is actually my chiropractor. He's also my best friend, it's Dr. Dave. And the lovely lady behind him is actually his wife, who is actually a chiropractor as well. Right. So I'm really, really lucky to have Dave in my life. Dave and I grew up playing hockey together. We were roommates all the way through Chiropractic College. My God, we've been through so much. You know, his office was destroyed in the flood. My office was destroyed in a fire. I mean, we've had unexpected children. We've had miscarriages. I mean, we've gone through a lot together. I'm really lucky to have Dave in my life. And one of the things that Dave and I have done for years, I don't even know when it started, but it started at some point. But when one of us have gone through challenging phases in our life, one of the things we say is we never ask each other, how are you doing? Right? I know that sounds strange. Why wouldn't you ask your best friend, how are you doing? Right? Because I'll tell you this, sometimes when it's nasty out, asking about how nasty it is doesn't make it any less nasty. Right? And the world's not that nice of a place right now, right? So one of the things that we do that is very, very smart is we never ask each other, how are you doing? It's always, what are you doing? Because what would imply action, right? So it's like, Dave, Chris, what are you doing today that's making your tomorrow better, right? Because we all want better outcomes, but those outcomes come from the choices that we make on a daily basis. So I ask you all, who is it in your life that asks you not how, but what? And I think having that person in your life is probably one of the greatest assets that you can have if your goal is to be as healthy as possible and not just be not sick, right? So yeah, for some of you, you need a little bit more help with this, right? So if you're having challenges as far as your health, feel free to reach out to our office, right? You can either find chiropracticsolutions.info. You can find me through the library. I'm sure you can find me on the internet. Feel free to check out our reviews. I mean, we're really lucky. Our reviews are great. They're, you know, each one of our 83 reviews are stories, right? And, you know, your story is our passion, right? So if you're one of these people that you need a little extra help, you're having a hard time achieving or maintaining your health goals, reach out to our office. We'd be happy to help you with this. Come in our office. I'm a chiropractor. I start with the spine and the nervous system first. Your nervous system is what controls every other function in your body. Healthy body comes from a healthy nervous system. A healthy nervous system requires a healthy spine. So come in our office. You can see on the internet or on our website, we do run an internet special, right? I believe it's like $100, and that includes your X-rays, your functional test of the nerve system, even the follow-up visit where I meet with you the next day and go over your recommendations, how we can get you to your goals. If that's something that you want to take advantage of, feel free. We're here to help you. We will take care of you when you are ready. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your attention.